You know, we started the Rumpus, we put a little thing up saying sign up for the daily Rumpus, and you could like receive like a daily email, and it would be like links to various things that we put up on the site. Did any of you subscribe to that? Because it kind of became something else, you know? I was just like, it started with just like, oh, I woke up next to my girlfriend, here's some links. And then it'd be like, oh, we got in a big fight today. And then, you know, they described that for a while. And then they just got longer and longer. And now there's like 8,500 subscribers. And I just kind of put everything out there. And then I'm like, and here's some links. So I thought I would just, this being the Rumpus event for Litquake, I thought I would just read a few of the daily Rumpus emails. And since I've been in Los Angeles a lot for the past few months, I did a search for Los Angeles to see what would come up in the emails, and some very strange things came up. This one is from November 10th, 2010. It's called The Talent Myth. Yesterday, I was talking about talent. I was with the dominatrix I met at the LA book fair. She has a friend who likes my books, and she said, I'm going to beat you, and she's going to make you muffins. You know, you think you're just going to get links. You know, you just put your email in and you get links to things on the site. But then you get this. We have plans to go to a movie premiere, and she modeled the latex dress she was going to wear. After, I made my way to Josh's house in Echo Park. We met in 2003 and traveled to Iowa and New Hampshire together for the caucuses and primaries. He was a comic relief in my book. I would put words in his mouth and have him showing up to political events dressed like a salmon. I was on the road all of 2004, traveling the country in campaign buses. I was locked in a difficult relationship with Patty, and I remember talking to her on the phone during a John Kerry rally in January. I was wearing cargo pants, and it felt like I was being dragged across the floor. Later that year, I was sitting on her kitchen floor, home for a week or two. She had taken my earrings out, and they were sitting in a cap full of hydrogen peroxide while she scrubbed my ears. And she said, I've got to give my other relationship a chance. Years later, she would blame me for the man she almost married and lost. She said he made over $100,000 a year. I've never been in anything resembling a healthy romantic relationship. Like, one day, you see the woman you loved most in the world holding hands with another guy on Bryant Street. You're finishing up a burrito, and they're coming to the restaurant while you're sitting outside alone. In fact, you introduced her to this restaurant, and he's shorter than you and clean-shaven. His hair is cut to say that he's nice, just walking through the world, not looking for trouble, and hoping for a promotion, like most of us. Your bike is locked to a wood pole, protecting a small tree, and you hug by leaning forward instead of pressing your stomachs together and resting your chins on one another's collarbone. And the next day, she calls, but she never calls. In the year and a half you were together, she called maybe 10 times. She likes talking on the phone, but not as much as being pursued. But the day after you see her with the other man, she calls out of the blue. You haven't spoken in months, but now she's near your house, and she wants to know how you're doing. And the subtext is, she might have hurt you, so you're carrying something she wants. Which is to say that nobody's talented. Not when it comes to prose. And if they are, it wouldn't matter. If you read a story by 100 beginning writers, you would have no idea who is going to be a better writer in a year. Yeah. If you encouraged one of them because they had promised an odd sensibility, a skeptic's view of their interior life, maybe even a hint of poetry, as if they were listening to Pink Floyd while they wrote, then you are mistaken. A year later, you would be shocked who was showing improvement. Still, nobody would be writing anything too advanced, but you might think you could see a trajectory with the ones who weren't leaning so hard on adjectives, beginning to trust the reader. You'd still be wrong. Only after maybe 5, probably 10 years would you have any idea if any of them were going to write a great short story. Almost guaranteed, the ones you thought had talent would be nowhere to be found if they were writing at all, which is unlikely. Because you thought was talent, what you thought was talent was actually promise. And promise isn't an indicator of anything. Among the people that spent 10 years writing in their free time, you might now see who has talent. But by then, it's a meaningless designation. They've already put in the time. So that's the kind of... That's like, that's like the first half of an email. Let's go for. So this one's from July 17th, 2010. This morning I got a series of curious notes. There was one about cancer that made me laugh, one about therapy that made me curious, one about carpentry that made me hopeful. Yesterday I got a note from a musician in Los Angeles. He said we dated the same woman. He was the second musician to contact me after reading my book. The other one lived in New York. He said he recognized the woman, whose identity I thought I had disguised. I wrote him back. I said I missed her. I never loved her, but if I had given it a chance, I probably could have. Then I played the mix CD she made me, called Too Freaked Out to Deal with It All, Too Fucked Up to Care. Not long after, I went to an art opening. The artist's friend pointed to me and said, "That guy slept with my ex-wife." The artist said, "That's Steve." When the artist told me this, I tried to figure out who the ex-wife was, but I couldn't remember anyone like he was describing. He said she was Asian, and I thought I would remember an Asian woman. I said, "We probably didn't sleep together." He said he didn't want to know. I said, "We probably made out or something." I got a note about suffering that reminded me of the last hotel in Gaza, sometime in 2006. We were sitting on the deck overlooking the Mediterranean. You knew you were on the Titanic. The English library had already been burned and the sewage plant was about to overflow. The wealthiest people in Gaza came to the hotel every night. Women without headscarves wearing brand name t-shirts advertising Coca-Cola. The breeze was calm and the lights reflected on the sea before floating into the dark. It was during the war with Lebanon and Hamas soldiers roamed the empty and battered streets. I was having a fresh juice for the same price I would pay in New York. A radio correspondent had smuggled in a flask of whiskey. The point is, I was with the Palestinian head of the UNRWA. He said, "What is a Qassam rocket?" "It's nothing, a firecracker." And it was true. They were nothing compared to the Israeli rockets that seemed to have demolished a tenth of the city. But he couldn't understand. As ridiculous as it sounds, the Israelis were just as afraid. The fear was the same, and the anger. Neither side had any sense of the other's suffering. As a result, their actions were always justified. That's what I thought of when I read the note about suffering. The one that said, "You don't know suffering. I've truly suffered." I thought, you should never discount someone's suffering, that misery tended to be real. And then I thought that if you tried to understand how other people suffered, you might begin to build a framework for your pain. And then there's like a bunch of links to the various things on the site. This last one, I'm just going to read one more because it was ironic to me that while searching for Los Angeles, one of the emails that came up is called San Francisco. And this one was written May 18th, 2010. It's so pretty in San Francisco right now. All the clouds coming in above the blue and pink lights of the 500 Club. There's a tattoo parlor and the laundrette, and close by the bar with the bike rack and Adobe Books where they once organized all the books by color. It's cold and blowing, and someone in Los Angeles said San Francisco is a city that doesn't want to admit it's cold. Others talk about the lack of seasons, how time passes, the summer of love, the speed addicts, Altamont, the sexual revolution, the pro-sex feminists. Lots of people have said San Francisco will make you soft, and nobody ever disagreed with that. It's a gentrified city, the city of Vesuvio and city lights, so North Beach has become touristy and overpriced. It's a white city with a huge Chinatown, a one-time banking capital, the tip of the dot-com needle. C, Leland Stanford's orange bricks, the Southwest architectural style, the Mavericks looming over Half Moon Bay, all the parks and pastels. Whatever happened here? Everything and nothing. It's a quiet town at night. The hipsters ride up and down Mission on fixed-speed bicycles. People drink single-origin, medium-roasted coffee brewed by the cup. There are mid-priced restaurants that don't serve anything not grown within 30 miles. The personal is political. Gay marriage is a given. Relationships have rules, but they're never what you expect. People celebrate naked and don't wear much makeup. The clubs don't make you wait to get in. It's a colder city than we care to admit. Soon, they'll close down all or some of Dolores Park for renovations. It's a small place. 7 by 7 miles made larger by the hills, but easy to bicycle because every hill has a valley. Only 800,000 people live here, but the population density is high. It's the center of the 5th largest metropolitan area in the country. I've been here 12 years, but I've only ever gone to one museum. I was fighting with my girlfriend at the time, and she asked me not to say anything. So we walked around the DeYoung holding hands, looking at paintings without speaking. Once the cloud cover is complete, the rain comes. It's a city with high rents and small apartments. The population is overeducated. Teaching jobs are hard to come by. The major newspaper is said to be on the verge of bankruptcy. There are perhaps more well-known writers than any city other than New York. It's a literary town, an art film town. They play a Wurlitzer pipe organ before showings at the Castro Theater. There are hundreds, thousands of places in city limits with views so stunning they steal your breath. The weather is worse than we think, but the public transportation is better than we give it credit for. The food is generally good. When the rain stops, the sun comes out, glaring across the wet streets. Sometimes I forget we're on the edge of the country or why I came here. I remember the first time when I ended up buying a slice of pie on Union Street and noticing how clean the air was blowing off the ocean. And the second time with my fiancé when the car ran out of gas on the Oakland Bay Bridge. And the third time when I didn't leave and parked above the Castro, wandering down to 18th to hustle drinks. It could have worked out differently, but I didn't have anywhere better to go at the time. San Francisco recycles more than any other city in America. The grocery near my house charges upward of $2 an apple. There's a lot of art and galleries. It's expensive and hard to find an apartment, but it's an easy city to live in. You don't need a car. Everything's close by. It's the birthplace of Burning Man and burner culture and the Folsom Street Fair. Perhaps where I'm going with this is obvious, but not to me. There's only the east end of the city, below the ballpark, the last place left for any real development. It's the Times. They've added a muni track and passed propositions and sold off the land. There's always provisions for below market rate housing, but it doesn't work so well, though we probably try harder than most other cities would. It's almost beside the point. Anyway, over time, if you allow yourself to forget, you can stop noticing how beautiful the city is. And it's so easy to forget in San Francisco because there are no seasons. If there's no revolutions or earthquakes, and if nobody burns down your apartment, and even then, time just passes without markers. I guess what I'm saying is it's hard to keep track. Thank you.